Hello and welcome. You are listening to the Gay with God podcast, a safe place for us to share our stories and support one another. How long did we know? What challenges did we face? Did we lose our faith? When did we find our way back home? Or are we still searching? The stories you hear on this podcast will melt your heart and strengthen your belief that in God, all things are possible, and you can be authentically gay with the God of your understanding. I am your host, Midge Noble, and I am very honored that you are here. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Gay with God podcast. This is Midge Noble, and I'm here 3 days and counting. So we made it through Christmas. We are now looking at 2026 on the horizon, and I'm wondering, 3 days. Are we counting down for a better year? Are we counting down just to get out of this one? I posted a picture of Kona and Kinsey, our two corgis, and it was one of those shots that they turned right at the exact same time, and I got the photo. It looked staged, but really it was just like I looked over, they were adorable, and I took the picture. The caption that I put with that this morning when I posted it on Facebook was, "We are wondering what 2026 might bring. We've seen the good, the bad, and the downright despicable ugly. Can we herd us back to some good?" And that's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering for myself, am I just easing out of this, keeping my head down low, hoping nothing else can possibly go wrong? Cancel, delete, in this year. In this year that has just been the most challenging year of my whole entire life, I think. And I've gone through a lot, as most of us have. But this year about broke me. I say about because I'm not broken, but I have felt broken. There have been times that I've told people in this past year, I'm broken. And I really was just so much into that despair at the moment that I didn't think the brokenness was going to end. Life, though, has a way of turning itself around. I did a poem one time for some kids in one of the classrooms that I did a classroom guidance lesson for, and I put a big circle on it, and I said, "The world goes around and round, sometimes up and sometimes down. But the circle continues to go," right? So no matter where we are in our circumstances, it's going to swing back around. The length of time it takes to do that, and we've mentioned this before on the podcast, how long will it be before this swings up to a better time? Could possibly 2026 bring us such a dynamic change in leadership? Anything else that we want to throw into the bucket? I mean, can we predict? No, we can't predict. I don't care what the polls say. I don't care what people are saying. I don't care who's bailing, who's coming in. I don't care, because we can't predict what little evil minions might do to turn it back their way, as they have several times now. So we don't know, but I do have great hope. I have great hope for the first time in a long time that the pendulum may be swinging back up. And when that happens, we may not remember all the ugliness of 2025, but I'm pretty sure that I will remember, and I want everybody else to remember, because that's the problem with history. When we forget what has happened and we gloss over it and we get into better times and we think, okay, now we're good, we're safe. No, no, you are not safe. If you're in calm waters on the ocean and you think, oh, I don't need this sweaty, heavy life jacket, and in 2 seconds a storm can come up and your boat capsizes and now you're in the ocean without a life jacket. So no, we can't predict that calm things are going to stay. We can't predict that no storm is on the horizon, whether you see it or not. And you also can't predict how fast it can come. Boy, we learned that quickly when we took one of those sailing trips, the second sailing trip with my father-in-law and his wife, and we were sitting having a delightful conversation on this teeny tiny little sailboat when all of a sudden I looked to my right and I saw these dark clouds and I made a comment. To me, it was just a comment. Oh, wow, those clouds are getting really dark over there. And you would have thought that I had set off a bomb. Everybody jumped up. They started storing gear. They started running around. I'm like, what? And I mean, within seconds of me seeing that really dark cloud, which seemed to be miles and miles and miles away, it was on top of us. Thunder, lightning, waves in this little cove that we were in, protected from all the, really big ocean waters. It was just a little cove, but no, waves, big boats flying past us that broke anchor and one almost hitting us. And it was chaotic and scary, so scary. So I know from experience that things can be absolutely sublime and then turn into hellish times, and it can happen quickly. I'm not saying that to scare any of us. I'm saying that to be prepared, that we need to begin to monitor how we see the world around us and look at what is going right still. I mean, even though many despicable things have occurred in 2025, there has also been some bright lights, some people speaking up, people not going along with the regime, people still doing things like giving food to people, helping people in Western North Carolina to get back on their feet, to do the removal of all the chaos that they went through and start to rebuild. There are so many beautiful, wonderful, loving people in our world that have been overshadowed this year with all of the crazy stuff that have been purposefully put in front of us so that we are in chaos all the time, and we think it's all just bad, and we either give up or we give in. And that's not going to happen with me. I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to give in. And I hope that enough of us go to the polls and we say that very, very loudly, that we deny you the right to be in charge again because you do not deserve it, you have not earned it, and you are not capable to be in charge of this country. All of you who conspired with him to get him elected, all of you who kept your mouth shut when you knew that things were not going right and you spun it so that it looked like everything was going good, all of you who voted for him twice, all of you who are being ugly and nasty to people who don't deserve it, all of you who have killed people because you're trying to keep your regime in power. You've broken the law, you've committed treason, you have really aligned with the dark side of the world. And no, I'm not going to go along with it, and I'm not going to be a part of it, and I'm not going to be in despair and think that things will never be okay, because we have 3 days. And I'm counting that when the year 2026 rolls in, something good has got to happen. Something way big, something way good has got to happen, because it is time and we deserve it. All of us deserve it. So having said that I am so looking for that little year to click over to another number that happens to be an even number, and I love even numbers. So, I'm happy that it's now going to be an even number, and that to me just brings peace. So how did you get to 3 days and counting? How did you manage your Christmas holiday? How did you handle any of the ugliness that you may have experienced at your family get together? How did you handle maybe being disinvited? How do you handle moving forward without that familial support or the love that you deserve? And remember, above all, you and me deserve to be loved unconditionally for our authentic selves. And if you experienced anything less than that, that's not you. That's on them. Okay? That's on them. So how did you do it? I would love for you to email me or message me, do a reply. Tell me how you did it. How did you survive it? How did you come through it? And were there any surprises? So here is my surprises. I go down to do the date pudding and hard sauce with my mother, who's now 91. She'll be 92 in July of this next year. Um, and she has done the date pudding and hard sauce for 40 plus years. And yet now at 91, she has no memory of ever doing it or ever eating it. And yet I still pursued going down and being at my sister's house with my mama, and that we were all going to make the date pudding and hard sauce and reconnect with that tradition, because mama couldn't do it the last couple years that she was living alone at her home. And so I thought, in this 91st year, I really want to have her experience that taste again. It might bring something back for her, but I also wanted us just, to get together and do it. And so I did. I went down and I spent all day. I'm not talking a little bit of time. Okay. This is an all day event. And on my great grandma Phillips's recipe, it said duration, preparation duration time, a very long time. That was her directions, a very long time. And then how many will this make? She didn't write down anything. So nobody knew. Mama didn't remember doing it, so she had no idea if she doubled the recipe or just did one recipe, or how much the recipe yields that first time. Nobody knew. So we started at around 10 o'clock in the morning. And when the Tar Heel started to play at 3 o'clock that afternoon, we're still steaming these little date puddings after, doing the batter. And then the hard sauce is just hard. It's very hard because you just keep putting the powdered sugar into this butter, and you just have to. And my grandmother's wisdom said, keep adding the sugar into the butter until it won't take it anymore. So what, the butter won't take it anymore? Do I have to ask, are you ready? Are you done? Have you taken all you can? Well, my shoulder told me how long I could put some powdered sugar into butter, and then I'd pass it off to my sister. My mom got into it. She stirred stuff and added things that I'd ask her to add, because I'd hand her something and say, put this in the bowl. And so she was a great part of it, and she enjoyed it, and we laughed and we sang, and we just had a delightful, very hard time because it really was labor intensive, and we stood all day long and until 3 o'clock. And then I took my timer and set it for when those steamer cups were going to go off, and I went and watched that ball game. And I, only went back into the kitchen, when I needed to go back for the steam cups. But anyway, so we doubled the recipe. We doubled the very hard sauce recipe, and we had plenty for when my brother came on the 23rd. We had plenty when we came back for Christmas, and then we got to take some back with us. And so my sister has now decreed that even though she called this a disaster to begin with, she now has decided that this should be a yearly, we get together, all three of us. My brother couldn't do the baking because he has a job that he works out of the home. And so anyway, but she wants us all to find a date to get together and make the date pudding and hard sauce every year. And she volunteered my home for the next time. So I don't know about that, but we'll see how that works. Her kitchen is way bigger. Her counter is much better. I think I'm advocating for her house every year. But anyway, we'll see. The reason I'm telling you all of this is because when you look for something that was either good or a happy memory, even though some things went bad, this is an example of that. So we're in a kitchen with our mother, who can't remember the most traditional, joyful part of our Christmases for as long as I can remember, was eating the date pudding and hard sauce after lunch. And that was our little sweet thing about Christmas, a tradition that was so, so great, was this date pudding and hard sauce. And my mother has no memory of that. Even as we were baking it, and I would ask her a question, and she'd go, I don't know, my brain doesn't work, or she'd say something. And I just kept thinking that if I kept asking, that somewhere, as she's watching us and smelling what's happening and going, being a part of the process, that it might come back to her. But apparently that door is now permanently closed. And that was a very sad thing. But at the same time, that very sad thing was still a joyful time for us because we were singing and we were cutting up and we were, licking spoons and and we were just having the best time. And yet there was that shadow of this really isn't all the story, but we can choose to focus on one or the other. And yes, we were sad when she would say something about that, or we'd be sad when we realized that she really is depressed and doesn't want to, really live that much longer because she's in pain and she doesn't, really have a life really at this point. We brought life to her that day. She laughed and she sang and she stirred and, she was a part of the tasting crew. And, it's just a perspective, really, a perspective of what I wanted to focus on. So as I go into these 3 days and counting, I'm wanting to remember that beautiful time with Mama. I don't want to remember that she's probably not going to be here next year. I'd be really surprised. But she surprised us after her 90th birthday because she said, all I want to do is get to 90 and I don't care what happens next. Well, she didn't, she might not care, but she got a whole extra bonus year and she's not really happy about that. But I want to remember the laughter. I want to remember the singing. I want to remember the tasting. I want to remember that we got together and we brought her joy on that day because she laughed and she sometimes cried. But she laughed a lot and she was a part of it. And that is what I want to remember. There's a lot of 2025 I don't want to remember. I don't want to remember, all the things that we've been through politically. I don't want to remember, but I will. I will, because it's relevant that we remember, but don't attach ourselves to the depressed feeling about it. I want to remember everything so that I can continue to advocate that we change it. But I'm not going to stay in despair over all of the ugliness that we've experienced, because in 3 days, we'll be in 2026. And everything is a clean slate. Everything is possible. I make no New Year's resolutions anymore. All I do is present myself to the new year and say, what am I supposed to be doing? Tell me what I need to do. And that is my prayer to God always. Tell me what I need to do. Show me, nudge me, call me, and I'll show up. Just tell me what I need to do. So I'm hoping that in this new year, we all give ourselves over to Holy Spirit, to be nudged, to be pushed, to be dragged to whatever our purpose will be for this new year. Will we be advocates? Will we be loud posters? Will we write letters? Will we send postcards? What will we do? What may we be called to do in this new year? And will we come with gusto, or will we crawl with our tails in between our legs into this new year? I know we're all tired. I do. I'm tired. And yet I think we still have some oomph in us. We still have that passion that we don't want the world to end on this note. We don't want to give it over to them and let the ugliness continue. So all of my bright light people out there, all of you that are light workers, that are the right kind of Christians, all of you who believe in the mission of Jesus, let's band together energetically. Let's push from our souls out into the universe, saying, we're ready, we're here, call us, and let's get to work. Let's get back to work and be ready to put all of the chaos of the holidays, all of the pain, drag that with you to not feel it completely, but drag it with you to give it over to 2026. Put it out there into the etherness to let it just fizzle out, because this brand new year in 3 days and counting is for us to step into and be who we want to be. You have the power to live authentically, boldly, and courageously in this new year of 2026. So I hope that if you're safe enough and if you're ready, that you will take that step and be the person you were created to be, and shine your special light into the world, and let's go make a difference. Thank you, everybody, for listening, sharing, and subscribing, and let's keep this going into 2026. Let people know about this podcast. Let them know what we're talking about and that they can actually be a guest to have their story honored on this podcast. Invite people to look at the podcast, to get the link, and to request a taping for their story to be honored in 2026. Tell people about my memoir, Gay with God, Reclaiming My Faith, Honoring My Story. Maybe you'll decide to do a book study on Gay with God, and feel free to invite me to Zoom in to one of your meetings, and I would love to answer the behind-the-scene questions for your special group. So let's continue to be noticeable and out there and not be ashamed of who we are. If you need help coping with all the overwhelming things that have happened in 2025 and you need some assistance, you can get a complimentary session with me. And you can find that link at empoweredmidge.podbean.com. We'll spend that 45 minutes to an hour getting to know each other, and I'll hold space for you as you talk about what struggles are currently going on in your life. And at the end, we'll make a plan as to whether or not you would like to engage in ongoing coaching or whether or not that one session was all you needed. So please go to empoweredmidge.podbean.com, go grab your complimentary session with me, and let's just see where it takes us. Also check out our Facebook group, Gay with God, where we do a monthly Zoom group entitled My Faith Journey. If you need support from a group that is passionate about caring about people and helping us all along our journeys, go to Facebook, find the group Gay with God, answer all of the group questions, and I'll invite you inside, and then you'll be able to get the Zoom link each month. If you are listening to this podcast and are questioning whether you can be gay and be in a relationship with the God of your understanding, if you identify as LGBTQIA+, are not even sure if you are gay, God has always been within you. Even when you didn't know it, you have always been gay with God. Thank you, everybody. Stay tuned to see how you can join the Gay with God community. And as always, you are loved. I want to invite you to become a part of the Gay with God community. How can you do that? Stay connected by messaging me your thoughts and comments in the comment section under the downloads of the show on the Gay with God show page. Subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen and share so we can increase our community outreach and be a light to those who are struggling to claim their faith. Consider being a sponsor so I can highlight your service in our community. We are all worthy of respect and a relationship with the God of our understanding. I want to thank you in advance for supporting this podcast. Together, we as a community will keep this show visible and our community stronger. Deep gratitude to my friend Tim McClendon of Tim McClendon Music for allowing me to use an excerpt from Interlude 4, a song found on his CD entitled Sundance.